Anyway, we'll find out. All I know is it always gets worse before it gets better, and you know something's going to have to happen because our country's going down the toilet. And they had some graph up last night or something, and basically the previous government, which is also our present government now, because they didn't get voted out of office, thanks to Queensland, they had this graph, and basically they doubled the debt basically in the country, and now it's going down sort of thing. So yeah, it wasn't a good graph they put up. So basically they did nothing about the economy, and now it's probably gone too far to actually do anything about the economy. It's a bit like global warming. If you don't do anything, eventually you can't do anything. It's a runaway, it's like a nuclear reaction, it's a chain reaction, it's a runaway reaction, and they'll start talking about helicopter money, but that only worked when we had the $50 billion to actually be able to put out there in the community, and it did work. But we don't have that $50 billion because they didn't introduce the mining tax to regain that $50 billion, you see. The miners fought against that, and of course probably the money that they took out of the country has gone overseas to tax havens and places like that. So some of these people in the mining companies, when push comes to shove, if it gets really bad, they'll be up against the wall because they stole from the country in times when we needed to build back up the refunds, and now we're in such dire shit because of that. That's why they're going to be put up against the wall, I reckon. And if you can't do the job, just send for me, make it lawful and legal, and it'll be a free service from me. As I said, it's always the one question of these people: have you ever done a good deed for anyone else in your life before? And how they answer that question will determine their fate, basically. As I said, it's the wisdom of Solomon. You only need one question to find out who the mofos really are. And I put it to you, they chose unwisely when they decided not to actually pay a reasonable amount of tax for just basically digging the stuff out of the ground and making money for nothing, basically. Making money for jam. Not to actually build up a sovereign fund to replace the one we had to use because we had a global financial... No one seems to talk about, you know, the global financial crisis, though it didn't actually have any effect on this country. It did, but we managed to circumvent it because we had that $50 billion sovereign risk fund sort of thing, because you have to replenish those things, and that was the point of having the mining tax, was to replenish that and maybe think, well, that worked quite well. Had it been twice that much, it would give us a much better buffer for the next time. We just got through the global economic crisis by the skin of the teeth, but no, instead of taxing the miners, they decided to double the debt. So that means when we get to the same point as the global economic crisis, it will be twice as bad and we'll have nothing to fire at it. So we won't have the 100 billion, we won't even have the 50 billion to fire at it, we'll have nothing to fire at it, and there'll be no helicopter money, and we'll go the way America went a decade ago, basically. So lots of people will lose their homes and they'll be living in cars, in the street, in parks and stuff like that, and I'm supposed to have pity for them if they've been greedy, or am I supposed to have pity for the people who did nothing, you know, for taxing the miners? So where am I supposed to apportionate my pity? Am I supposed to err on the side of the caution and give it to the populace, or the greedy portions of the populace? Or am I supposed to coordinate and proportion my pity to the upper ends of and all these mining companies, and who are just great, basically greedy bastards who are on a good thing and don't want to lose it and want to screw everyone to keep it, sort of thing, and screw the country? Well, you know, if you don't want to pay your taxes here and pay a reasonable amount of tax, a fair amount of tax, you can just basically bugger off out of a country. What about Google and other places on paying no tax? I mean, you can work with these companies and say, well, okay, you don't want to pay tax, we can understand that, but do you want to fund this hospital here? Here's a $280 billion hospital. If that's built next year, or over the next 3 years, you can go on not paying any taxes. We understand your revenue flow is a bit wonky, but if you want to help us build our big ticket items in the country every so many years, we call on you to do that. fair. We'll let you go on paying no tax, but when the time comes and we want you to do something, here's a hospital for 280 billion, just write a check. If you're willing to do that, we can work something out. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything too egregious, you know. Just be fair and honest. I mean, after all, you're based in America, the land that says in God we trust, you know. Just be fair and reasonable, you know. Anyway, as I say, it always gets worse before it gets better, so, you know, buckle yourselves in. As the Chinese proverb says, may you live in interesting times. So it gives something to talk about to your grandkiddies, the shit that went down in the land down under. So, yeah. But as I said, it could get really bad. It'll be like, you know, French Revolution sort of thing, and maybe it'll be an Aboriginal thing. They'll point the bone at these politicians, these idle, lazy nitwits, and they'll get the power of pointing the bone at these people, and they'll suddenly learn and understand the true power that this country has. Yes, pointing the bone at some of these politicians and some of these companies that weren't really willing to get